Hi, this is Phil McCauley for Labour Business TV, and it's a pleasure to welcome Jake Sumner today, the co-chair of SERA, Labour's environmental campaign and Socialist Society. Welcome, Jake. How are you?
Yeah, very well indeed. Good to see you, Phil.
I'm glad to hear it. Now, obviously, we have a new leader in the party, Keir Starmer, his new team, Ed Miliband back on the front bench as Shelley Business. Everybody's talking a good environment game, but what does Labour really need to be thinking about now in terms of policy development and where we take this thing leading up to the next general election and our platform for government beyond that?
Yeah, thanks, Phil. I mean, that's an important question. And just before I suppose start answering that, just a little bit about SERA, because I think that may provide the context. SERA has been around since 1973. It's the Socialist Society, the only environmental Socialist Society, and it's an affiliated part of the Labour Party, so has a sort of a semi-formal role through the Socialist Societies in policy making. And what we've tried to do throughout that time is be a critical voice, a friendly voice on championing positive and ambitious environmental policy, and really not having environmental policy as a niche, but actually mainstreaming it. And we've long campaigned on things like air quality way before, thankfully, it's come up the political mainstream. And we hold loads of events. We had a 14-event programme at Labour Conference last year, for example, have a publication, do lots of things. We did an event recently this week with Labour Business, which we'll probably come to in a sec. But and we have a number of front benchers who are members of SERA. So that's sort of what we are. And in some ways, that then comes back to your question, we really need to think as Labour about how we champion the green programme ahead. Absolutely. Many organisations are championing a green recovery. We ourselves were saying that as well, but we've seen trade unions, we've seen businesses, we've seen NGOs. There was a climate lobby of Parliament earlier this week. And the Labour Party itself has said we need that, and Ed Miliband launched a consultation on that. And we've also seen Labour have its wider National Policy Forum consultation. And clearly, in Labour, we tend to want to jump to policy answers. Understandably, we are policy rich as a party, but sometimes we probably need to take a step back and look at what are we saying and how are we saying it, why are we saying it, and who are we saying it to. And the environment and the green recovery and how we address climate change is very much part of that. And there's always been dangers in how that has been portrayed. And I've said one of them, the environmental policy has been considered niche at times. That's wrong, but it has been. And so when we look at this green recovery, we've got to recognise that COVID has had a dramatic impact. I mean, at the start of the year, we were saying it's a climate emergency, and that's absolutely right. We've got a decade to make the changes we need to keep to 1.5 degrees or below. That's incredibly hard to make that target, but we sort of have to because the consequences are catastrophic. But as councils, regional authorities, mayors have declared climate emergencies, Parliament declared one, and various targets since ahead of the government 2050. That was all right. That was all correct. We were in an emergency. However, with COVID, we've arrived in, I guess, an emergency that people have seen even more acutely after the last few months. And so a sort of danger if we just solely say, look, this is an emergency, we've got to act over 10 years when we've acted for COVID over a matter of days, weeks and months. There's a difference there. And then also there's crisis fatigue. And polling was showing before COVID how people are worried about and fearful for the future. There's a lot of evidence of that. And people are now rightly worried about the consequences of the future, the huge job losses that seem likely. The forecasts are suggesting unemployment that we haven't seen for a very long time. And so this is a context because 10 years of people saying, some people, not everyone, saying the green way is the most expensive, the green crap that the government said, government ministers, Osborne, Cameron, etc., said, newspapers say, oh, we can't do that, or say organic food being a bit more expensive, just touch things like that. People thinking, oh, yeah, I'd like to do that, but it's a bit more expensive. And often the media saying, oh, it's about individual choices, not systemic change, and focusing too much on that, means that people are sort of fearful, oh, how do we do that change? And it is, it's big. And really, how we need to talk about this, and we've seen how important this is during COVID, of security and resilience and safety. And the environment and climate, and the climate crisis is the biggest existential threat we face. And it is actually the biggest health crisis we face, the rise in deaths that are going through extreme heat, extreme weather and flooding, our crops not being able to grow crops because of the climate, the air quality that exacerbates and is poor and exacerbated through climate change. All of these factors and more we need to be cognizant of. And also one other factor in this is people's mental health. And through COVID, we've seen the challenges that people have faced, but also the importance of access to nature and green space as part of good mental health. And we haven't really talked enough about those in the environment movement. And we as SERA have talked about social justice being, entwined, one with the environment. We can't have social justice over here and the environment over there. But equally, we need to understand that the health crisis is an environmental crisis, that good economics is good environmental policy, and vice versa. And a green recovery addresses all of those things and helps build resilience, security and safety. And I can talk a bit about some of those areas.
Well, so what will a green recovery look like? What will be the basic components of it in terms of creation of jobs, for example, and focusing them around positive environmental policies?
Yeah, and that's right. And there's a number of, all those organisations I listed at the start, there's a number of people who've said, look, here's a number of measures that one needs to take. And look, and I can sort of, as a summary, trot through those, but I want to pull out and say, here's some things we need to do differently. Because if we build back better, which we need to do, if we have a green recovery, we do need to do things differently. But look, we need we need better transport systems, investment in public transport. Too many people aren't on that. We need a retrofitting program for homes that will create low energy bill, zero energy bill homes that are warm. So save people money, bring lots of jobs, lots of benefits, and tackle emissions. Fortunately, the government has decided not to go down that path currently because it's not allegedly sexy enough. We need to build new homes at a green standard. I was on a call with Lord Deben this week, and he highlighted that 1 million homes have been built recently, and all of those need to be retrofitted. I mean, what a colossal waste. We need a more secure and environmental food system. We've seen food security an issue. We need to make sure we've got green manufacturing. We need to make sure that we look at all government expenditure and projects through a carbon lens, so that it moves in that direction, linking how we support industries with a move to change. And there's all of those sorts of things, and lots of people are sort of arguing for those sorts of programs, and we agree with those. However, there's a number of areas, I think, where we need to think a bit more differently. So the first of those is skills and jobs and that direction of travel on the just transition. It's true that the UK has one of the lowest skill levels in the OECD. We have very little worker engagement, one of the lowest levels. Trade unions are part of worker voice. They help anchor pay and they help anchor skills. And so we should be using trade unions more. And people involved at the table can be more innovative, and we need more innovation, bringing people's conversations together in this. So what we should be, and then there's the big skills gap in lots of the industries we need to move into, and this isn't just building a solar panel or a wind turbine, although some of those jobs we haven't got anyway because of the previous decisions that were taken not to invest in these. But actually, we've seen cafes, we've seen financial institutions, we've seen food producers, all sorts across the economy moving in green directions, and we need that to be accelerated. We need that to be at scale. But there's too little union representation across sectors. So what we should do, and what the government should do, and to improve our productivity and skills, is to have a at-scale fund that enables unions, trade unions, to bid with sectors and supply chains to develop, and working with skills institutions, the FE colleges, etc., to develop those skills pipelines that we need. I mean, again, it was on a call this week, to do the retrofitting, we need significant amounts of jobs and people to test that. We've got, I think, something like a couple of hundred, a couple of hundred people trained up with those skills. But there's many more skills right across the piece. And then what we then be doing is create a social good here and addressing the frailties. And one of the things I should have said as well is that, what COVID has really exposed is the frailties of our system, the insecure work, the challenges that people face with, poor level housing. All of those have combined together to really expose a wide set of people, and we need to address that as we build back better. And so this will be helping people improve skill levels, have voice, better union representation, and a sort of co-creation partnership. We see things like that in Germany to move forward industrially, and there's a big opportunity in manufacturing for us to be the green centre of manufacturing, build on our heritage. So
that sounds really encouraging. But I just want to press you a bit more on what's going to happen next. I mean, what's your thought about the impact on the environmental progress that's been made across Europe now that we have left the European Union, and now that we're almost at the end of the transition period, and it looks very much like a very hard Brexit coming up? What's going to happen in terms of our environmental policy here in the UK?
So, and that's a very good point. I mean, SERA has talked a lot about the environment and the impact that leaving the European Union has, or had, was going to have at the time, has, because we lose lots of the abilities for enforcement environmental legislation. We are part of that common bond that creates that sort of floor to stop people undercutting each other, and we have the rights to challenge that. And one of the things it should have been much louder was, we lose our rights for a safer, greener world through exiting the European Union. Unfortunately, the environment was sort of airbrushed out of the conversation. But we are where we are. There is a danger for our businesses, our manufacturing supply chains, as I've described, through the tariff arrangements. But one of the challenges I think we have, is that the government seems very, very hell-bent on weakening environmental standards. It sort of has said it in relation to perceived trade benefits, let's say vis-a-vis the United States on food, undermining our farmers and the standards that, many of them have introduced good measures, still a way to go. The NFU wants to move, ambitiously and we talked about on climate change, and yet the government is not pursuing that, and this idea that we can mythically sort of trade our way out of this of this issue with these things. I mean, of course we want good trade deals and all the rest of it, but not at the expense of actually our business, our standard of life, and what we get. So that I think is an issue, and one of the things that we've also called for some time, and it particularly now, and is going to be relevant ahead, is a sort of green guardian, which gives people the ability to have their own rights, a sort of green ombudsman, that sort of approach. Because we lose it from the European courts, we can't use them anymore. Climate Earth took the government to court several times on the failure to act on air quality. We need, and that was through the European courts, we need the ability now, so we need that green guardian to be established. But again, what we need to be in a position of is the government investing in our industries of the future, that change to the more resilient jobs of the green economy. And we're just not there yet. The 5 billion infrastructure announcement that we saw earlier this week by the government was paltry. I mean, if you look at the impact that's been happened in different parts of the country, the asks that those countries had when the government said, "Tell us what you need," and the response to that is poor. And it's not a green recovery, it's not a green programme, it's not moving in the right direction. Maybe next week, Rishi Sunak said, the government will do whatever it takes. Well, it needs to do whatever it takes next week. I fear that we are not going to see that. And although there's greenwashing, green words and things like that, we don't see it in reality. And I think the danger is, it's a bit like when you see Johnson at the dispatch box, despite having a very clear question, he then answers something that's just sort of hot air. And too many ministers, too many Conservative MPs say, look, we've reduced our emissions by this much. Isn't that great? We are leading the world. We're not. We've reduced coal, we've reduced energy, transport is stable, other sectors are more or less the same. And we haven't made by clearly not enough measures. And I just don't say that. Labour doesn't say that. SERA doesn't just say that. The Committee on Climate Change, the independent expert, says that, and it said it very, very, very clearly, repeatedly. We are not meeting our targets legally we've signed, and we are not meeting the carbon budgets that we signed up to in our own legislation to meet. That's why we need to do that. But we need to, and there's a couple more steps I want to talk about that enable us to do that. But I'll just sort of pause there because I don't want to sort of answer too much at length.
Oh, that's very fascinating. Well, let me just ask you a particular question that's on my mind. Tell us the difference between targets and legislation requiring market action and market change. It seems to me, my perception has been for a long time that government set targets, we miss them, they set more targets, we miss them, we set more targets, we miss them. We've got this target-driven mentality. Whilst targets are important, what about the legislation to enforce action and change?
Yes, there's some of that, and sometimes, so the government's got a transport decarbonisation plan, for example. Within that, some of the figures it refers to are from the Clean Growth Strategy. That itself is on weaker targets than those set by the Committee on Climate Change. And targets can be important because they set a goal ahead for what people, for how the country and how industry and everything else move to that direction. We did have a low carbon homes target that was set by the Labour government. I was there, I was a special advisor at the time. The coalition government came in and scrapped that, and that sort of bonfire of regulation. Very short-sighted, wasted a whole opportunity to bring benefits for people on a sort of a political spurious point. It was stupid. So, but it's not just about targets, and in some ways it's not just about legislation. I mean, it's good that we have the framework, and when we've signed up to Paris, we've got our we've got the Climate Change Act that was introduced by Labour government. We've got the budgets we need to meet. The government's just not bringing forward the policies to deliver that. And partly it happens under all governments. As I said, I worked in government, but I've been a councillor myself. I've worked in regional government, and there is a massive role here for local leaders and regional government. And this is the other thing that we've been calling for as SERA, which we support, is action to be taken at the most appropriate level and devolve power and environmental change. And what do I mean by that? Well, at the moment, we've got lots of metro mayors. There's lots of Labour mayors doing a good job, leading and leadership. And what we've seen earlier targets on addressing climate change. on the climate crisis. We've seen, investment programs. We've seen planning reforms. We've seen housing, etc., 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 and trying to drive a better, stronger agenda, which is joined up across the week. And it can't be done at a desk in Whitehall. And there's a danger that this lever is pulled at the centre and everything is all right, and that's not the case. And so the Welsh government's done, has moved forward. It's got one of the highest recycling rates in the world, for example. It's made changes to its housing to deliver cooperative housing. So when we have social housing, I think at least 10% of it is, it must be of a cooperative model. There's many changes like that. And in a way, each area is going to has its own needs, and each area will have its ways to address things, and we need hundreds, if not thousands, of climate conversations around the country, because a critical thing here is we need consent for the actions that we're doing. We saw that in COVID. Why do people act as they did at the beginning? We were able to make those steps because of the consent of the people. They recognised that they needed to act, and we need people to recognise that they need to act. They need to be part of that. So again, you can't have a plan at a desk in Whitehall or a dispatch box. You can't have a conversation at those two places either. They need to be in communities. They need to be in areas. You have leadership from mayors. You have leadership from local government leaders. Labour local government leaders have been doing a great job on many of this, with budgets absolutely ravaged and still trying to make a difference. So the government must really enact a programme of devolution, give areas the powers they need to act, give them the budgets to act, and they can create local, regional, ambitious plans to deliver on the climate programme that we need ahead.
So decentralisation is one of the answers. I mean, if we take someone like Liam Byrne, who's going to stand for mayor in Birmingham next year, what kind of things does he need to be thinking about in particular around the local environmental issues, considering the industrial scale of operations in that region?
Well, yeah, and I mean, I should declare I do some work for Liam as well. So, I mean, I should because I'm not here, I'll probably talk from SERA, but recognise, I mean, Liam did an event with SERA and Labour Business on Monday, and laying that out. And so I think anyone should have a look at that, because I think what Liam laid out in that event was a real ambition for the West Midlands, and for being at the heart of green manufacturing, the green manufacturing heart of Britain. And people, what he said on that, and I'm paraphrasing him here and I can't do it justice because he spoke so eloquently, but people have a real passion and pride of their area. They want credibility on the programme ahead, and they can see us building our way into recovery, addressing the climate crisis through green manufacturing. And then that means, how does that work? It means that skills program, like I've just described, so people can have those jobs, addressing their skills deficit. It means devolving the powers down to locally. There's a number of different streams of funding that Liam's outlined in the West Midlands that could easily be addressed and put to use, better use locally. And we need a plan to support the transition to green manufacturing, support what is already there. There is some great examples of activity already happening, but it's really scaling that. But it's not just about the West Midlands, as I've said. There is, Andy Burnham has led on when he was running for mayor, he did a SERA event with us, and he committed to holding an environmental summit. He did that, and then had another one, and through that was a commitment to the, I think it's a 2038 target of carbon neutrality for Manchester, overlaid with industrial strategy, overlaid with a transport plan, overlaid with a spatial plan. All of these coming together to really harness the greater Manchester economy and environment, and an ambitious programme. And similarly, we've seen it Marvin Rees in Bristol. We've seen already Jamie Driscoll in a year in North Tyne. One of the first things he did was declare a climate emergency. Really ambitious plan to sort of build his powers as well, but create cooperative models, create ambition around what he can do there. We've seen it in Steve Rotherham in Liverpool, and I'm sure, and we've seen it obviously in London, where the structures have been in place for much longer, and we're going to have the ULEZ, for example, coming out next year, which is one of the biggest changes to address air quality and driving and transport and all of those sort of issues. And there's much more that Sadiq and his team are doing there. I just highlight some of these examples, and that isn't all local government leaders. I mean, Oxford is doing amazing stuff on trying to develop a whole green bus network. There's been energy systems that have been put in. But what that does is show the absolute range of excellence that can be taken forward. I think Labour, needs to win. There's elections next year across not only all those areas, but more. We've got local council and county and metropolitan elections alongside, and in Wales and in Scotland. And there's a real opportunity for us to say, look, we can do this, and here's a much better future.
Yeah, and finally, just what are your thoughts in terms of Keir Starmer coming in and leading the Labour Party in this new direction? We've had quite a period of time where there hasn't been much focus for Labour in terms of winning an election. Now we have it. And so what's your message to Keir Starmer in terms of his green policy agenda? And how committed is he, do you sense, in relation to the specific missions that you've set out today?
Keir and his team have been obviously thrust into the COVID crisis, as the government has, and have responded very well in terms of being constructive and challenging the government where needed, and exposing and providing real home truths. And we've seen the government failing to heed the real sage advice. Sorry, first, excuse the pun, sage advice. The advice from and the points from Keir and the whole of the team. But what we've seen is, and what I like about, Keir is also my MP. He's definitely he wants to win. We need to win, and we've seen the challenges of losing, and particularly on the environment. We are now going to face a much more challenging time ahead, and threats to the environment from some of the things I've said earlier in this conversation. And I also think Keir and his team recognise fully the climate crisis that we face, and what we need to do. And a number of the front bench, Keir and others, and Annalise, they're SERA members, they're SERA supporters. We had a programme at Labour Conference last year, which I said was right across the front bench. And I think SERA has always been covering all wings of the party, and that is its strength. I mean, sometimes it's a challenge, but actually, and what we try to do is work with the front bench to push that forward. But I think, and I pay tribute to many of the politicians who've been working over the last few years and where we got to, and many of the things they've done, and John McDonnell, for example, previously on pushing and being very loud and clear and committed to a green programme. I think that strength we must draw on in the unity message that Keir laid out. But I go back to this: an election is unlikely to be for another 4 years or so. We have got a general election, that is. We've got elections next year. We've got Labour leaders in power. We've got Labour leaders who could be in power, for example, in the West Midlands, as I've said, and other areas, Tees Valley and the other places. And we need to win those, and we can show credibility and delivery, and provide a voice for people and a direction of travel to not only help change people's lives, not only help lead a green recovery, not only help address the joblessness and the unfairness and the insecurities that people face, but also offer a path back for Labour to win in the next election.
Jake Sumner, thank you very much indeed for joining me today, and stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you.